Let me ask you a question. Have you ever prayed for something, expected it, planned for it, and then God said, no? You felt confused, you felt rejected, you even started questioning your value. But hear me, clearly God's now is never about denial. It's always about destiny. When he says no, it's not to hurt you. It's to position you for what you truly deserve, not just what you desire. Wake up to the bigger picture in the kingdom of God. Success is not measured by how many doors open. It's measured by how well you respond when they close. Many people lose faith not because they lack potential, but because they misinterpret divine direction. Listen, just because it didn't happen the way you want it doesn't mean it won't happen the way it should. God doesn't say no to punish you. He says no to preserve, prepare, and promote you. Imagine this, you're asking for a glass of water while God is building you a well. You're praying for a door. He's designing the blueprint for a whole building. And yet, when he says no to the little thing, you think you failed. You didn't fail. You were being upgraded. Never forget, God doesn't give based on emotions. He gives based on purpose. You might want relief, but he's preparing you for rain. You might want comfort, but he's preparing you for calling. T-O-J-H, T-I-U-H, no hurts, but it heals. Let's be real. No, from God can hurt. But sometimes the best surgeries are the most painful. A surgeon doesn't cut to destroy. He cuts to heal. God's no is often a scalpel, not a sword. He's removing what doesn't serve your future. He's correcting what would have corrupted your destiny. He's denying what would have derailed your assignment. So stop mourning the closed doors. Start preparing for open gates. What to do with the no? This is your moment to stop doubting and start discerning. That no wasn't random. It was divine strategy. Now you've got to get your mind right. Get your faith rooted. Get your vision clear. You're not abandoned. You're being realigned. You're not rejected. You're being redirected. You're not cursed. You're being covered. God's now is protection, not punishment. God's now is protection, not punishment. This truth will transform how you interpret disappointment. Let me break it down with real life, with raw emotion, and with kingdom clarity. Have you ever applied for a job you were sure was the one? You passed every interview round, dressed your best, and even started imagining your name on the office door. But then you didn't get it. And the email said, "We regret to inform you." At that moment, it felt like failure, but months later, you discover that company laid off half its staff due to a financial collapse. Suddenly, that no wasn't rejection, it was rescue. You see, what we often call punishment is actually protection in disguise. That relationship you cried over, that opportunity that slipped through your fingers, that deal that didn't go through, it wasn't meant to destroy your hope. It was meant to preserve your purpose. Sometimes God shuts the door not because you're unworthy, but because he loves you too much to let you settle for less than what you were born for. Protection doesn't always come wrapped in comfort. Sometimes it comes wrapped in confusion. And that's where most people miss it. You think silence means absence, but God is never absent. He's just busy constructing the better version of your life behind the scenes. He's not punishing you. He's positioning you. Let me give you something to think about. Have you ever been in traffic, frustrated by the red light, only to drive a few miles ahead and see the wreck that happened just moments earlier? You say, wow, that could have been me. That's not a coincidence. That's divine traffic control. That's heaven saying, you may not like the pause, but I'm protecting your path. You wanted to get married, but the person ghosted you. You thought it was a setback, but God was shielding you from a future filled with hidden pain. You were angry in the moment, but years later, you're thanking God. He didn't let you marry a storm in human skin. When God says no, he's not subtracting from your life. He's subtracting the danger that you couldn't see coming. He sees the end from the beginning. You only see the now, but he sees the next. That's why the no is necessary. It's not about what's happening to you. It's about what he's doing for you. Listen, your purpose is too precious to be handed over to every open door. Some open doors lead to broken floors. Just because it's available doesn't mean it's ordained. That's why discernment is more important than desire, and God, in his infinite wisdom, will block what you beg for so he can bless you with what you never expected. Think about a child who wants candy for dinner. They cry, scream, and plead. But the parent says no, not because they hate the child, but because they love them too much to feed their cravings at the cost of their health. That's how God treats us. He refuses to give you what you want now because he's protecting what you'll need later. You might be wondering why you haven't gotten the house, the spouse, the breakthrough, the platform. Let me tell you, if it hasn't come yet, it's not because you're cursed. It's because you're being curated. You're being molded. And what's being prepared for you is far greater than anything you thought you missed. Sometimes God closes the door because what's behind it would have destroyed you. You were praying for the position, but the politics behind that title would have crushed your peace. You were chasing the spotlight, but the pressure behind the platform would have cracked your soul. So he said, no. And now you're not broken, you're becoming. You're not falling apart, you're falling into purpose. God's now isn't the absence of love, it's the evidence of it. He's not being cruel, he's being careful. He's being calculated. He's being protective over the investment he put in you. You are not ordinary. That's why he won't give you average. That's why the doors he closes are just as divine as the ones he opens. You think you're missing out, but you're actually being moved out of harm's way. Let that sink in, because every time you didn't get what you wanted, you were being spared. And every time God said, no, it wasn't a period, it was a comma, something better was coming. You wanted to be seen, but he wanted you to be safe. You wanted validation, but he wanted transformation. You wanted now, but he wanted forever. So he said, no, and that, no, save your future. That, no, built your character. That, no, is the reason you didn't lose your mind. That, no, is the reason you still have peace in the middle of the delay. So the next time life tells you, no, don't curse it, study it, don't complain, give thanks. Because in the kingdom, rejection is often the road to redirection. The door he closed today is the doorway to something you never imagined tomorrow. God's no is your security clearance from heaven. It's proof that he still has his hand on your life. It's proof that you are still on track. It's proof that you are not forgotten. You are fortified. You are not denied. You are being designed for greater. Closed doors are signs of a higher calling. Closed doors are signs of a higher calling. Let that statement sink deep into your spirit, not just into your mind. Too often, we treat a closed door like a death sentence, like it's the end of our story. But in truth, it's just the beginning of a divine rerouting. A higher calling doesn't come through convenience. It comes through confrontation, through the confrontation of our plans with God's purpose. Have you ever walked up to something, fully convinced it was yours? You prepared, you prayed, you fasted, and everything seemed to line up until it didn't. You were walking toward the door with faith in your heart, only to have it slammed shut in your face. That hurts, that confuses, and most of all, it tests you. But here's the revelation. That closed door wasn't a denial of your destiny, it was an announcement that you've outgrown that level. Closed doors don't mean you're unqualified. They mean you're overqualified for what you were reaching for. You see, when God closes a door, it's because what's behind it is too small for your assignment. That opportunity you begged for, it wasn't built to carry the weight of your anointing. That relationship you cried over, it would have limited your growth, stunted your progress, and suffocated your purpose. So the door closed, and that closed door was mercy wearing the mask of disappointment. You think you lost something. No, you got released. You didn't miss your moment. You were being invited to a higher one. Think of it this way, a child pulling on a doorknob they can't reach cries out in frustration. But the parent knows the child doesn't belong in that room yet. It's not that the room is bad. It's that the timing isn't right. That door will open when what's behind it won't destroy what's in you. Sometimes doors close because you've stayed too long in a place that can no longer serve your evolution. Growth demands movement. Purpose demands pruning. And a higher calling will never fit through a lower door. You're trying to walk into your next with baggage from your past, and God is saying, that version of you can't enter here. Have you ever seen a snake shed its skin? It doesn't mean the old skin was evil. It just means it outlived its purpose. Closed doors are the same. They indicate that who you were isn't compatible with where you're going. And rather than curse the closure, you must learn to celebrate the signal. That signal says it's time to level up. Real talk. Some of us are still mourning over doors God closed 5 years ago. Still checking the handle, still knocking, still asking why. Let me be clear, if the door is closed, stop revisiting it like a crime scene. It's not a place of loss, it's a place of launch. God didn't close it to punish you. He closed it to promote you. You've been crying over what didn't work, but heaven is applauding because you're finally being rerouted toward what will work. A closed door will force you to look in a direction you've been ignoring. That's the divine setup. You wouldn't have started the business if they didn't let you go. You wouldn't have discovered your voice if that relationship didn't break. You wouldn't have dug deeper to your calling if you weren't denied that opportunity. You thought you were being shut out, but you were really being called up. God has a way of using closed doors to increase your sensitivity. When every door is open, we get careless, we stop listening. But a closed door makes you pause. It makes you pray, it makes you reevaluate. That reflection is part of your refining. The higher calling requires a sharper version of you, a version that doesn't panic when something doesn't go as planned. Closed doors also protect your integrity. Some rooms aren't toxic because of what's in them. They're toxic because of what you would become in order to stay. You would have compromised. You would have lowered your standard. You would have started living off of applause instead of purpose. But God said, not this one, not my child. So he shut the door, not because you weren't good enough, but because you were too valuable to be polluted. Think about it. Some of the most defining moments in your life didn't come from what opened. They came from what closed. You didn't discover your strength when everything went your way. You discovered it when the plan fell apart, when the job said no, when the call didn't come back. That's when your real calling started to scream louder than your ego. Don't just tolerate the closed door. Learn to interpret it. It means the season has shifted. It means your identity is maturing. It means that what's next can't be accessed by who you used to be. It's not just a door that's closed. It's an old level that's expired. So next time a door shuts in your face, don't panic, don't retreat. Stand tall, lift your head, and say, this must mean something greater is being prepared for me. Because closed doors are not punishments. They are promotions in disguise. They're not the end of your journey. They are the evidence that your journey is moving to a higher elevation. Let that elevate your mindset, your faith, and your expectations. What feels like rejection is often redirection. What feels like rejection is often redirection. That sentence alone has the power to shift your entire mindset. Because what you call a loss, God calls a launch. What you thought was the end of something good was actually the beginning of something great. Rejection stings, yes, it hits deep. But buried inside every now is a compass pointing you towards something that would have never appeared if everything went according to your plan. You wanted the job, and you were the most qualified candidate. You had the resume, the recommendations, the references. You even had peace walking into the final interview. Then the email came, we regret to inform you, and instantly your confidence started to crack, your heart sank, but months later, you hear the company downsized. The division you would have worked in was dissolved, and suddenly, what felt like rejection turns out to be divine preservation. You weren't being punished, you were being redirected. That's how the process works. Rejection is never random. It is divine strategy in motion. You applied for that school, and they turned you away. You auditioned for the opportunity, and they said, you're not what we're looking for. You submitted the manuscript, the business proposal, the grant application, and they all said no. And at that moment, you thought the door had closed on your dream. But what you didn't see was that another door, one with your name engraved on it, was opening quietly behind you. You were looking at rejection, but God was already pointing you toward redirection. It's like GPS, you've punched in the destination, and you're driving confidently along the suggested path. Then suddenly, detour. The road is closed. Your first instinct is frustration. Why now? Why this turn? But the system is rerouting you, not to harm you, but to get you to your destination safely. Rejection in life is the divine GPS rerouting your steps to bypass roads that were never meant for your purpose. And let's be honest, sometimes we become addicted to what's familiar. We would rather stay stuck in a toxic opportunity than trust the unknown. So God has to interrupt what you thought was permanent to introduce what's truly promised. You don't get redirected if you're already on the perfect path. Rejection is the evidence that God is curating a better route, one that requires a better, stronger, more prepared version of you. Real talk, some of your greatest breakthroughs started with heartbreak. You thought it was over when they walked away. You thought it was the end when they stopped calling. But what actually ended was the delay on your elevation. Their absence created space for your assignment. Their rejection unlocked your redirection. If they hadn't left, you wouldn't have grown. If they hadn't let you down, you wouldn't have learned how to rise up. And here's the most profound truth. Rejection is not personal. It's purposeful. It's not because you're not good enough. It's because you're too called to be confined by that situation. You don't fit in the mold because you were designed to break it. You don't get selected by the crowd because you were destined to lead it. God didn't allow the rejection to make you bitter. He allowed it to make you better. That denial was a divine decision. That closed door was a course correction. It's like going to the airport and missing your flight. You're standing at the gate, watching the plane roll away, feeling like a failure. But later you hear that flight had severe turbulence, delays, or worse. That missed flight was a miracle you didn't recognize in the moment. That's how God moves, quietly, masterfully, and with your best interest at heart. Think about relationships. Some people were not rejection, they were red flags. And had you stayed, you would have settled. You would have shrunk. You would have survived instead of thrived. But because they let you go, you discovered your own wings. That's the power of redirection. It doesn't just give you new paths, it reveals your hidden potential. Even in business, rejection builds resilience. You pitched your idea and nobody saw the value. But in that season of rejection, you were forced to refine, you rebranded, you rethought, you regrouped. And when the right platform came, you were no longer just ready, you were revolutionary. Redirection made you dangerous. In a good way, it made you unshakable. People who understand the power of redirection don't panic when rejection comes. They pause. They listen. They ask, what is this teaching me? Because they know behind every rejection is a redirection that carries more wisdom, more reward, and more alignment. Don't resent the closed door. It's not the end, it's an invitation to grow deeper, think bigger, and trust harder. You weren't left out. You were lifted up into a higher realm of purpose. And when that redirection unfolds, you'll look back and thank God for every door that didn't open, every person who said no, and every moment that felt like failure. Because without them, you wouldn't be walking in the right direction now. Divine timing always outranks personal deadlines. Divine timing always outranks personal deadlines. That statement alone can rewire your entire understanding of how destiny operates. We live in a world addicted to speed, fast food, fast money, fast fame, fast results. We've been conditioned to think that delay equals denial. If it doesn't happen on our timetable, we assume it's not going to happen at all. But here's the truth that will shake your souls. Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means the clock you're using isn't the one God is using. Have you ever tried to rush something and ruined it? You put something in the microwave that needed to be slow cooked and it came out half-baked, uneven, or burnt. That's what we do with our lives. We microwave our dreams and expect them to taste like destiny. We rush into relationships, jobs, decisions because we're anxious, not because we're ready. And then we wonder why things fall apart. Divine timing isn't about moving fast, it's about moving right. You see, personal deadlines are rooted in your understanding, but divine timing is rooted in wisdom beyond your comprehension. You said, by 25, I'll be married. You said, by 30, I'll own a house. You said, by this year, I'll be successful. But what if God is saying, I'm not preparing the thing for you, I'm preparing you for the thing? Because the truth is, some blessings delivered too early become burdens. You don't give a 10-year-old the keys to a car just because they want to drive. Wanting isn't the same as being ready. And God loves you too much to give you something that will crash you before it blesses you. Let's talk real life. How many times have you been upset over something that didn't happen on time, only to later realize the delay saved you? You were mad the deal didn't go through, but then you saw the economy shift. You were frustrated the person didn't call back, but then you saw their character unravel. What you called a setback was actually a setup. What you called late was actually perfect timing. Divine timing has no need to explain itself. It only needs you to trust it. And sometimes the delay is not about the thing at all. It's about your development. You've been asking for the platform, but God's been shaping your voice. You've been praying for the stage, but God's been building your character. You're looking at your watch, but heaven is looking at your growth. And until you become the person who can handle what you're praying for, the answer will feel delayed. But it's not punishment, it's precision. Here's what's powerful. Divine timing doesn't run on your clock, but it always shows up on time. Think about nature. A tree doesn't bear fruit the day after you plant the seed. There's a process underground before there's ever progress above ground. The roots have to go deep before the branches can go wide. And just because you don't see movement doesn't mean there isn't growth happening. Some of the most important things God is doing in your life are happening in silence, in secret, in stillness. When your deadline passes and the breakthrough hasn't come, it's easy to question everything. But that's where faith matures. Faith doesn't just believe in miracles, it trusts in timing. Faith says, even when I don't see the evidence, I trust the intention. Faith says, even when I'm not where I thought I'd be, I believe I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. You've got to learn to surrender your schedule to God's strategy. You've got to release the pressure of having it all together by a certain age or season. Stop letting culture's timeline create spiritual anxiety in you. Some of the most impactful people in history didn't start until they were older. Some dreams take time, not because they're small, but because they're significant. Big assignments require deep preparation, and preparation takes time. And sometimes divine timing makes you wait because the environment around you isn't ready yet. God isn't just working on you. He's orchestrating circumstances, aligning people, shifting economies, moving hearts. It's not just about your readiness, it's about universal alignment. You are not just waiting, you are being synchronized with something greater than you could ever schedule. Personal deadlines are built on pressure, but divine timing is built on peace. When something is for you, it won't need to be forced, it will flow. When the timing is right, you won't have to manipulate it, beg for it, chase it. You'll be prepared and it will manifest. Not early, not late, right on divine schedule. So if you feel delayed, take a breath. Let that breath remind you you're not behind, you're being built. You're not forgotten, you're being fashioned. And when the appointed time arrives, everything that felt like waiting will make sense. Every no, every delay, every detour, it will all come together in a way that no deadline could have produced on its own. You're not running out of time. You're being aligned with it. A denied request can lead to a released destiny. A denied request can lead to a released destiny. Think about that for a second, not just with your mind, but with your spirit. That thing you begged for, cried for, even fasted for, the opportunity that didn't work out, the person who walked away, the deal that fell through, it didn't break you, it birthed you. Sometimes the very thing you thought you needed is the very thing standing in the way of who you were created to become. You saw denial, God saw destiny being released. Imagine a child gripping a toy tightly, refusing to let go, even though a better, more valuable gift is waiting behind their back. That's how many of us are with life. We cling to what we think we need: relationships, jobs, status, timelines, and when it doesn't go our way, we panic. But what if the denial wasn't the end of your plan? What if it was the beginning of His purpose? What if you've been praying for a door and God said no because He was building a house? Real growth happens when you look back on the things you once thought were disappointments and realize they were divine interventions. You didn't get that promotion, not because you weren't capable, but because that role would have buried your creativity. You didn't marry that person, not because you weren't lovable, but because your purpose required someone with vision, not just charm. You weren't invited to that room, not because you lacked value, but because that room couldn't handle your calling. Rejection doesn't mean you're unqualified. It means you're overqualified for that limited space. Destiny gets released when comfort gets denied. Every caterpillar that becomes a butterfly has to be denied the comfort of crawling. The cocoon doesn't feel like elevation, it feels like isolation. But in that hidden place, in that denied movement, wings are formed. So many of us cry over closed doors without realizing the closed door kept us alive. That denied request didn't stop your life. It saved your future. If you had gotten everything you wanted, you wouldn't be strong enough to carry what you were meant to become. Take this to heart: delay is not denial, and denial is not destruction, it's construction. When your plans get blocked, when the answer is no, you're being rerouted to something you never saw coming, but always needed. You might have prayed for an open door, but God was preparing a platform. You wanted the contract, but He wanted to birth a calling. And the only way to get you there was through a denied request. That denial pushed you out of your comfort zone. It forced you to develop, to grow, to mature. It pushed you into purpose. Destiny is not delivered in convenience. It's born in chaos. It rises from the ashes of what didn't work. Ask anyone who's ever done something great, and they'll tell you it wasn't their yes moments that built them. It was the no moments. The job they didn't get, the person who didn't believe in them, the door that wouldn't open. That's where the fire was forged. That's where identity was formed. That's where they stopped begging for seats at tables and started building their own. Let's make this real. Maybe you were denied entry into that school, and it shattered you. But in that space of emptiness, you discovered a hidden skill. You launched a business, you wrote a book, you mentored others. That no didn't block you, it birthed you. Maybe you didn't get accepted into that social circle and you thought you were being left out. But in solitude, you discovered strength. You learned to depend on yourself. You grew thick skin, not from applause, but from absence. The best part is this: what's for you cannot be taken from you. A denied request is not a missed opportunity, it's a protected assignment. God's law is not about deprivation, about elevation. That denial is often a divine declaration. You were meant for more. That place couldn't hold your capacity. That relationship couldn't stretch to match your destiny. That opportunity couldn't carry the weight of your future. So instead of giving you what you asked for, God gives you what you were born for. We spend so much energy trying to open doors that God locked for our protection. We call it ambition, but sometimes it's just anxiety. We knock and knock, and when there's no answer, we break down, not realizing that the silence was sacred. It was divine. It was the pause before the promotion. You're looking at the denial as a block, but it was a bridge. It was God saying, I've got something better. Not smaller, not delayed. Destiny doesn't unfold when everything goes right. It shows up when your world says no, and your faith says, then I must be getting close. You were never meant to stay stuck in someone else's approval. You were meant to walk boldly into your divine assignment, even if that means walking through the ruins of a denied request. What you thought was lost was actually leverage. That no didn't end your dream, it launched your journey. That denied request wasn't God saying, you're not ready. It was Him saying, there's something greater coming, and I refuse to let you settle. God doesn't just answer prayers, He edits them. God doesn't just answer prayers, He edits them. That truth alone can revolutionize your walk through life. Because so often we go to God like a child with a wish list. We bring Him our blueprint, our schedule, our demands, and we expect Him to sign off on it like a divine assistant. But God is not your assistant. He is the author. He doesn't just fulfill prayers, He revises them. He looks at what you asked for, and then He measures it against what He's called you to become. And if the two don't align, He makes a holy edit, not to harm you, but to elevate you. We pray for outcomes, but God works on alignment. He's not just trying to give you what you want. He's aligning your life to who you're supposed to be. That's why you can pray with all your heart for a door to open, and it still stays shut, not because God ignored you, but because He's editing the script. You saw the scene, He sees the story. You were asking Him to bless a chapter He never intended to include. And when God sees a prayer that contradicts your purpose, He rewrites it, not because your voice doesn't matter, but because your destiny matters more. Let's get real. How many times have you looked back and said, thank God he didn't give me what I asked for? You were asking for a person to stay, but if they had, you wouldn't have discovered your independence. You were begging for a job to last, but if it did, you wouldn't have launched the vision that was hidden inside you. That's the divine edit. That's when heaven steps in and says, you're asking small, and I created you for more. And he goes to work, not in your comfort zone, but in your character. See, the edit is where the power lies. We live in a culture obsessed with the first draft. We think the first plan, the first idea, the first relationship, the first dream, that's it. And when it doesn't work, we crumble. But the truth is, masterpieces aren't born in first drafts, they're refined in edits. Any author will tell you that the first version of a book is raw, unpolished, full of flaws. It has potential, but not precision. And if a good editor steps in, they don't throw the whole thing out. They rework it. They remove what doesn't fit. They shift the order. They sharpen the message. That's exactly what God does with your life. You gave him your draft, and he said, let me make it read like destiny. And sometimes those edits are painful. Sometimes he cuts out people we thought would be with us forever. Sometimes he removes opportunities we were counting on. Sometimes he shifts the timing when we thought we were ready. But the pain of the edit is nothing compared to the power of the final result. Because God doesn't just edit to subtract, he edits to refine. He cuts what would have contaminated your calling. He removes what would have reduced your vision. He delays what would have derailed your destiny. Look at the process of filmmaking. Do you know that before a film hits the screen, there's an editing room full of scenes that were shot, acted, lit, and emotionally compelling, but still got cut? Why? Because even though they looked good, they didn't serve the overall storyline. That's what God is doing when he edits your prayers. You thought that opportunity was essential, but God said, it's a great scene, but it doesn't belong in your movie. So he left it on the cutting room floor, not because it wasn't impressive, but because it wasn't necessary. You have to understand, when God edits your prayers, he's not rejecting you, he's protecting you. He sees the full script from the opening scene to the final frame. He knows where the climax is, where the plot twist hits, where the breakthrough needs to come. And if he removes something you begged for, it's not because he didn't hear you. It's because he loves you. He saw that if you got what you wanted, it would have satisfied you now, but suffocated your next. This is where trust becomes real. It's easy to trust God when he says yes, but do you trust him when he says rewrite? Do you trust him when he looks at your prayer, crosses something out, and writes in something that doesn't make sense yet? Do you trust the editor, or are you still fighting to be the author? Because you can't do both. You can't demand control and then complain when the story doesn't flow. If you want divine results, you need divine edits. And that means surrendering the pen. Think about a GPS system. You type in your destination, but if the road is blocked or dangerous, it recalculates. It doesn't mean the destination has changed. It just means the route is being adjusted for your safety. That's what God does. Your prayer was the destination, but the edit is the recalculation. You asked for marriage, but he's editing your maturity first. You asked for influence, but he's editing your humility first. You asked for increase, but he's editing your discipline first. And sometimes you won't understand the edits until much later. You'll read back over the chapters of your life and finally see the why behind the no. You'll realize that every divine edit led to divine expansion, that every unanswered prayer was an answered purpose, that God wasn't ignoring your voice, he was rewriting your victory. The no now prepares you for the yes later. The no now prepares you for the yes later. That sentence is not just a statement, it's a strategy. It's not rejection, it's preparation. You thought God was blocking you, but he was building you. He wasn't ignoring your cry, he was investing in your character. Sometimes the reason the door didn't open because the version of you that knocked wasn't ready to handle what was behind it. You wanted the blessing, but the blessing requires backbone. You prayed for elevation, but God knew your foundation needed to be reinforced. You cried over the delay, but the delay was the discipline that would keep you from destroying what was meant to bless you. Have you ever watched a builder lay the foundation of a skyscraper? It's not flashy. It's not impressive. It's slow, it's deep, and it's dirty. But the higher the building is designed to rise, the deeper the foundation must be dug. That's what the no is doing in your life. It's digging you deeper. It's stretching your patience, enlarging your capacity, and teaching you to stand when nothing is moving. Because when the yes finally comes, and it will, you can't afford to be a person who crumbles under the weight of what you were begging for. Some of you are praying for next level blessings with a beginner level mindset, and God in his mercy is saying, not yet. That not yet is not punishment, it's preparation. Let's bring this home. Imagine a 16-year-old demanding to drive a high-powered sports car. The desire is real, the ambition is sincere, but the maturity is still developing. If that parent loves the child, they won't hand over the keys too early. Not because they don't believe in the child's future, but because they want the child to reach it alive. That's what God is doing when he says no to something you think you're ready for. You see the keys. He sees the crash. You see the moment. He sees the mission. And instead of pleasing your ego, he protects your destiny. You see, life isn't just about getting what you want. It's about becoming who you were designed to be. And that becoming process is not birthed in the blessings. It's shaped in the no's. You learn to trust when there's nothing to hold. You learn to be consistent when applause goes silent. You learn to be grateful when comfort disappears. Every no trains your soul to walk by faith and not by sight. You stop living for the promise and start living from the principle. Think about a woman who applies for a dream job. She's qualified, she's passionate, she's prepared. But the email comes in, we've decided to move forward with another candidate. Her world shatters, she questions her value. But what she doesn't know is that months later, the company will announce layoffs. That same department she longed to join will collapse. And in the waiting, she'll start a business that impacts thousands, builds generational wealth, and unlocks a purpose she didn't even know was inside her. That rejection was the redirect. That no was the preparation for a better yes. You've got to reframe the silence. Just because God is quiet doesn't mean he's absent. Sometimes the silence is his greatest gift. It's where he matures you without the noise. It's where he heals what you didn't even know was broken. It's where he detoxes your motives and strengthens your vision. He's not punishing you by making you wait. He's preparing you so that when the door opens, you won't shrink back, you won't sabotage it, and you won't settle. You may feel stuck, but you're actually being shaped. You may feel forgotten, but you're being forged. And I dare you to look back at every no in your life and ask yourself, what did it build in me? Did it build perseverance? Did it build clarity? Did it expose something you needed to let go of? Because here's the secret. Every no that God allows carries with it a lesson you can't afford to miss. If you skip the no, you forfeit the strength required for your whys. Think of a baker who pulls a cake out of the oven too soon. It may look perfect on the outside, but it's raw in the middle. Many of us want to be done before our time. We want to shine before we've settled. But the no keeps us in the oven. It keeps us under heat, not to destroy us, but to develop us. So when we're finally presented, we're not just impressive, we're ready. Some of the greatest victories in your life won't come from what you walked into. They'll come from what you walked away from. That job you didn't take, that deal you let go of, that relationship you finally released. The no taught you to listen. It taught you to let go. It taught you that what you thought you couldn't live without was actually the weight holding you back from flying. So don't curse the no. Don't resent the pause. Don't despise the wait. The very thing you think is blocking you is actually blessing you in disguise. That no is proof that your yes is being prepared with precision. And when it comes, it won't come with confusion, compromise, or chaos. It'll come with confirmation, clarity, and peace. True maturity is praising God for what he didn't allow. True maturity is praising God for what he didn't allow. This is a hard truth for many to swallow, but it is one of the deepest revelations of faith you will ever experience. There's a level of trust and spiritual growth that comes when you begin to recognize that God's no is just as powerful, if not more powerful, than his laws. Many people live life with an assumption that God's blessings are always delivered in a way that looks like the fulfillment of their desires. But what if the greatest blessing is not getting what you asked for? What if the most profound way God demonstrates his love is not by giving you everything you wanted, but by protecting you from what you couldn't see? Think about it. How many times have you looked back at something you thought you needed? Perhaps a relationship, a job, or a particular opportunity, and now, with hindsight, you see that it was a blessing in disguise that God did not allow it to come to pass. You thought it was the key to your success, but in reality, it would have derailed your future. That relationship you thought was going to be the one, the job you thought was your dream, the business idea that you were obsessed with, all of these may have seemed like answers to your prayers, but in God's wisdom, he said no. And now, as you reflect, you realize that his no was actually his greatest protection for your life. That is the essence of maturity, understanding that God sees the full picture when you can only see the piece in front of you. He doesn't just answer your prayer based on what you ask for in the moment. He answers based on what he knows you need in the future. Sometimes we pray with a limited perspective, thinking that what we want today will fulfill us in the long term. But God, in his infinite wisdom, sees things we cannot. He sees the storms ahead, the hot touches we would face, and the pitfalls we would stumble into. And because he loves us too much to allow us to walk into those things unprepared, he steps in with his divine no and says, not yet. He does this not out of a lack of love, but because he's protecting you from something that could hurt you in the long run. For example, there was a time when a woman was desperate to find the right partner. She had been praying for years for someone to come into her life. She believed that marriage was the next step for her, and in her mind, She could already see herself with a specific person. She prayed fervently day and night, asking God to bring them together. But time and again, God said, no. At first, she was confused. She couldn't understand why someone so perfect on paper wasn't the right choice for her. But then, years later, when she looked back at that situation, she saw the reasons why it wasn't meant to be. She realized that had she married that person, she would have sacrificed her true calling, her personal growth, and her peace of mind. God didn't answer her prayer the way she wanted, but He protected her from an outcome that would have held her back. This is what true maturity looks like, praising God not just for the blessings, but also for the things He didn't allow. It's understanding that God's wisdom is far beyond our own. When you look at your life, think of the opportunities that slipped through your fingers, the dreams that didn't come to fruition, and the doors that stayed closed. It's easy to get frustrated in the moment, to question God, to wonder why things didn't work out the way you envisioned. But what if those closed doors were actually a sign of His protection? What if the job you didn't was the blessing you never knew you needed? What if the relationship that fell apart was saving you from heartache and confusion? True maturity in faith is knowing that God's plan for you is always better than your plan for yourself. It's about trusting that He sees the end from the beginning, and His decisions are rooted in love, even when you don't understand them. If you're still holding on to things that God has said, maybe it's time to release them. Maybe it's time to praise Him for the things He didn't allow, because in doing so, you acknowledge that His ways are higher than yours. You let go of the need to control your life and trust that His no's are just as powerful as His yeses. When you reach a place where you can honestly say, God, thank you for what you didn't allow, you've stepped into a new level of spiritual growth. You've moved beyond simply wanting to be blessed to wanting to be protected. You've moved beyond praying for immediate satisfaction to seeking lasting transformation. You've reached a place where your trust in God is no longer dependent on the outcome, but on the confidence that He knows what's best for you, even when it doesn't look the way you imagined. If you've ever experienced a no from God, thank Him for it. Praise Him for the protection He provided, for the doors He closed, and for the relationships He didn't let you settle for. Praise Him for the opportunities that never came, because they were never meant to be yours. When you can embrace the no, you unlock the true power of gratitude. You shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance, from frustration to peace. And in that moment, you discover that His no's were not barriers, they were blessings in disguise, leading you to the life He truly designed for you. In the grand journey of life, we often get caught up in the chase for what we think we need, when in reality, what we truly need is already within us, shaping us for the greatness that's coming. So many of us pray for blessings, for opportunities, for relationships, but when we don't get what we ask for, we question ourselves, we doubt God, and we feel like we've been forgotten. But the truth is, God is not withholding from us, He's preparing us. Every no is a lesson, a redirection, a chance for you to pause, reflect, and realize that you are not just being stopped, but being strategically positioned. You see, success isn't always about getting what you want when you want it. Success is about staying faithful when the road gets tough, about trusting the process even when the outcome is not in sight. Success is about holding on to the truth that just because something didn't happen the way you expected it to, doesn't mean it won't happen at all. Greatness is often born in the waiting. In those moments when it feels like you're stuck, remember, God is setting you up for something far greater than what you can even imagine. Your no is His protection. Your no is His preparation. And it's in the struggle, in the silence, in the times when you feel least understood, that your true strength is developed. You are not defined by the closed doors in your life. You are defined by how you handle them. And how you handle these closed doors determines how you will handle the open ones. Do you curse the no, or do you trust that the yes is on the way, even if it comes in a way you didn't expect? Remember, the world doesn't remember the people who give up after a setback. The world remembers those who get back up, dust themselves off, and keep moving forward. It's not about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you rise. The true power lies in your ability to stand firm in your faith, even when your plans fall apart. The true victory is found not in the destination, but in the journey. And the journey is full of detours, setbacks, and delays. But those moments don't define your destiny. They refine it. When you are in alignment with God's purpose, even the no's will make sense. Even the delays will become the fuel that propels you forward. Every time you face disappointment, you must remind yourself, this is not the end of the story. It's just the beginning of a new chapter. It's easy to become discouraged when things don't go as planned. But let me remind you that some of the greatest blessings come wrapped in challenges. Some of the most successful people you admire today have faced rejection, have endured heartbreak, and have experienced failure. But what set them apart was their resilience. They didn't give up. When the door was slammed in their face, they knocked harder. They didn't cry when they didn't get the promotion. They built something better. They didn't stop when life threw them curveballs. They kept swinging until they hit the home run. And here's the real secret. It's not the talent that makes you unstoppable. It's the tenacity. It's not the opportunity that makes you great. It's the willingness to step into the unknown, to trust in the process, and to believe that what is for you will never pass you by. The closed doors are simply redirecting you to your true path. The rejection is realigning you to the opportunities that will truly fulfill your purpose. God has already laid the foundation for you. Now it's your turn to walk in it, to move forward with confidence, to know that the best is yet to come. The universe does not operate in a linear, predictable fashion. It's full of surprises, unexpected twists, and incredible breakthroughs. Just because something didn't happen the way you envisioned doesn't mean your dreams are dead. It means God is simply making room for something greater. So when life says no, you get up, hold your head high, and say thank you, because you know that, yes, it's coming. A better version of your blessing is on the way, and it will be more fulfilling, more rewarding, and more aligned with your true calling than anything you could have imagined. There is power in the pause. There is strength in the silence. And there is a magnificent victory in every setback. Remember, success is not measured by how fast you get there, but by how well you handle the journey. Every no you face is an opportunity to rise higher, to stretch further, and to grow stronger. Keep your head up, keep your faith strong, and never forget that when God says no, he's simply saying, wait for better. And when that better comes, it will be more than worth the wait. So stay strong, stay hopeful, and know that your time is coming. Keep pushing, keep believing, and keep striving. The best chapters of your life are just ahead.